I'm Daniel.
I'm Jay-Z.
And this is Just My DIY.
We have loved creating ocean resins ever since we first launched our channel, but we're using longer cure epoxies that tend to come with their own unique challenges sometimes.
Now, one of those challenges is you need to make sure and have it covered or it may collect dust. You need to make sure and have it level or it may run off of your project anyways. And if you don't do it right in the first time, you just pretty much have to give a clean slate and start it all over again.
That's right. Those two-part epoxies start curing the second that you mix them together, so you can't correct mistakes. But that's why UV resin was really interesting to us, because it doesn't start curing until you put a UV light on it. So our question was, can you use a UV epoxy to make an ocean resin?
And we'd like to thank Total Boat for helping us answer that question by providing us with plenty of UV clear resin so we could get through all of our testing and still have plenty left for the actual project.
We did find for us what works best to get a UV ocean resin, and that's what we're going to show you in today's video.
Well, let's get on it.
So the first step in working with resin is, of course, to protect your surface, and then to protect any edges, any parts of your project that you do not want to get resin on. We are using frog tape for this. You can also use, I believe, packing tape or Tyvek tape. This frog tape was just handy and worked really well. We did cut notches in this just to fold over and give it a little more structure, but that was just a personal preference. So once we get that all taped up and sealed and we're comfortable with the placement of the tape, it is time to set it down and get ready to mix some pigments.
Now the next thing to protect is you. Wear gloves. Wear gloves. Now this is Total Boat UV clear resin that we're going to use as a base, and we're going to distribute it into ramekins, whatever amount we think we'll be using. We'll be using sand in ours along with a bunch of pigment powders to represent the colors of the ocean.
A nice turquoise there, as well as a darker blue, because we're going to do a two-color ocean this time. And then, of course, our white pigments from Mermaid Trash, which we already had some mixed up that we actually put into a syringe.
So we do heat it up a little bit. It makes it a little bit easier to work with and draw up into the syringe. You see it takes a little bit while to work into it, but once you do, you have an easy distribution method.
And we'll show you why that's important in a little bit, especially on a project of this size. But first thing, we're going to put the darker blue down on the back and then the lighter blue up front. And we're going to draw a type of shoreline that we want to see. This will change a little bit until we start curing, but we go ahead and mix with a popsicle stick and make sure we blend those colors together nicely.
Once we have that figured out, we're going to put a little bit of our sand resin down in place and distribute that evenly.
And we're really sure to bump those two resins up to each other and just make sure that connection point between the sand and the other pigment looks really good. So once we're happy with it,
we flame on and use that to pop any of the bubbles that may be there from our mixing processes.
We did find that a torch is a little too heavy for this, so the lighter worked perfectly.
Yeah, the torched the bag underneath.
It torched everything. So we did cure with a UV nail light. Again, we'll link everything down below, but around 100 seconds or so was a good time for this particular resin with how much pigment we had in it. Keep in mind the amount of pigment in your UV resin will depend on how much light penetrates, which will determine your curing time.
Now here's why the syringe was important.
So we just put down a layer of clear across all of where we want the oceans, and now we're going to go in with the syringe.
We're using it to put a delicate and thin line of white resin, which is hard to achieve otherwise, in front of the clear resin. And once we feel like we have it to the appearance that we'd like to see it, making sure we fill in any bubbles or oddities.
We're very meticulous with it. Then we're going to pull out the heat gun.
We're going to heat it vertically first just to warm it up. And then we're going to turn it like the wind's blowing, the water's off the shoreline. We're going to push that white resin back just a little bit, not overworking it, not fading the front white line, but letting it disperse into the clear. And once we feel like it's set, we flame on.
So this particular white pigment reflects well to heat, and so we actually get a little more of a lacing effect once we hit it with the lighter. Again, we're going to do about 90 to 100 seconds underneath the heat lamp, and once we hit that, you can see we have our first wave.
Second wave is going to be much the same as the first. We're going to create the clear backing and evenly distribute it amongst the area we care to see it. We pull out that syringe again. You'll see it a little bit better this time, us getting that nice fine white line.
Yeah, just getting that really right in front, touching that clear resin without going too much into it is kind of the art form of the ocean resin technique.
So we give it that push back, we light it to activate it, and pop bubbles. Add your UV.
And then hit it twice with the UV light for 100 seconds each. That just makes sure that everything is fully cured, good to go.
So we're going to peel off our frog tape at this point in time, and it should all peel back and off relatively easily.
And you can see how clean those edges are, and now we have an ocean resin. We are going to bring you in closer up just on the waves to show you a few more things that we're looking for without having to worry about giving you a full view with the heat gun. So as you can see, we have the clear resin down following that shoreline. We're using our popsicle. And then again, just doing that nice controlled line. You can actually see the white is kind of attracted to the clear and makes that connection. But the biggest thing is to not overwork that white line. You don't want to fade it up front, and you want to get just enough where you can start to get some of that good lacing. As soon as you see the lacing you want, start to cure it.
Obviously, we're going to follow that step again. We're going to add the second layer of clear and use the popsicle to move it around.
And this time we're actually going to show you one of the things we love about UV resin is that you can correct mistakes a lot easier than with regular resin. You'll see once we start pushing this that the white goes a little crazy, and once we heat it, it forms a bubble that we didn't want. And so we just took our popsicle stick, knocked that right off, and it was great. We were able to fully maneuver that white resin a little more and still turn out to have a good looking wave.
So again, you finish it twice with the UV and admire it, peel the frog tape.
And there it is. Those are our best techniques for getting an ocean resin with UV resin. So there you go. We hope this video was helpful for you.
And if it was helpful, give it a good old thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell, wave at us in the comment line. And of course, know that everything that we use to do this is listed out in the description.
Also in the description are links to all of our social handles. Please connect with us across platforms. We love hearing from you. And don't forget to check out our blog at justmydiy.com. Thanks for watching.